I'm on Crib Goch, hanging out for dear life, and you're listening to the Teen Trails podcast.
I'm loving these intros, Eddie, and that's another awesome one from Jenny, live from Crib Goch, the Jeopardy. Thanks for that. I loved it. And we've got, my goodness, we've got 3 in the bank still, so they are coming in. We will get to them all. Yeah, we will eventually get to them all.
Welcome to episode 78 of the world's famous and UK's #1 trail running podcast, Tea and Trails. My name is Eddie Sutton, and my IT band, Gary, is so tight. I can play AC/DC Thunder on it. The Theragun is within hand's reach.
Thunder.
Thunder. And if you know, you know. That's all I'm going to say. Gary doesn't know.
Well, my name is Gary Thwaites. I am absolutely shattered from my tips of my toes to my eyes. Everything is exhausted. I've had a dog jog, so the legs feel okay, bizarrely. But yeah, I'm just super, super sleepy.
Have you had much sympathy from your co-host? I don't have time for this, Gary. We need to just record. Come on, let's go.
You can have a rest day. You can have a rest day.
No.
Well, this week we are joined by AJ Hanspal. Be prepared to be... oh, God, I've got a nut stuck in my throat.
He's got nuts stuck in his throat.
Some salty nuts. Before
Why have you got salty nuts at 9:30 in the morning?
Oh, my goodness me. Never too early for salty nuts.
Never too early.
Be prepared to be inspired. We love a challenge here at Tea and Trails Towers, and if you are thinking of doing one, it doesn't have to be epic as AJ's, but perhaps he might inspire you to grab a team, make a sandwich, and give something that scares you a go. We have a Tales from the Trails. Pop over to our Strava club and we share our weekly deets.
Thank you to our Patreon partners who share some awesome discount codes with our Patrons. We have Precision Fuel and Hydration, Velo 40, Protein Rebel, Tiki Boo, Mountain Fuel, Outdoor Active, Silver Sweden, Active Route, the Centurion Running Store, Sportshoes.com, Big Bubble Hats, X Miles, Fawnside Farm Cottages, Yugoku Projects, Hellfire Events, Red Bear Sports, The Album App, Retainer Group Cycle Protection, Summit Crazy, Beat It Sports, Lumi Activewear, Fenix Light UK, Bridgedale Socks, Nav4, and Ultra Trail 2. Extra shout out to Precision Fuel and Hydration and Protein Rebel. We use their products every month to help fuel, hydrate, and recover. Gary, you need to recover. What do you need? You need
schoolboy error. I didn't take my protein shake with me yesterday.
Do you know if you guys, as a little top tip, you forget your protein shake, get to garage, just get yourself a pint of milk. Down
That's
that,
what I did.
Got everything. You're such a legend. A litre of milk.
It was sensational. It's really funny this with milk. Why are
we've gone back to the milk. I was moving on.
Well, why are we the only animal that drinks?
No, let's not. I don't like to think about it. No, we just drink it.
It's absolutely,
just
when you think about it,
it's
insane.
not. It's insane. So let's just move on.
But if you would like to save some money, support the podcast and our partners, then please consider joining Patreon. We couldn't do this without you guys. Also, pop over to Summit Crazy if you would like to buy some awesome Tea and Trails merch. Thank you to Precision Fuel and Hydration, Fenix Light, and Protein Rebel for sponsoring this week's show. Super grateful for your support, and don't forget to pop over Precision Fuel and Hydration, book in with the sports scientists, read some case studies, and use their handy fueling planner. Yeah, I have been using it again and reading case studies ahead of my Lakeland 100. Lots of awesome stuff over at precisionhydration.com. Links to all our sponsors can be found in the show notes.
If you are a patron, you get 15% off over at Precision Fuel and Hydration. Also, if you'd like to try them out, you're not sure if it's right for you, you can get 15% off your first order with the code CAPSLOCK T24. Also, if you're interested in trying any of Protein Rebel's collagen, magnesium, or protein, you get 15% off there too with Caps Lock T, or should we just say capital letter? Let's just make it simple, guys. Capital letter T, as T always should have a capital letter because it is one of the most important words in vocabulary. T15. Links to all of our sponsors can be found in the show notes, or just slip into Gary's DMs. He loves that. He loves
not
a message.
You go first this week, Edwina.
You go. Come on. Radio on. Let's not put the radio. Do you listen to the radio all the time? We have the radio on 24/7 at our house.
Six music. Yeah, it's a treat. Not all the time, but I do enjoy Six music.
We have the radio on. It goes on. Do you want to know the deets? This is a real insight into the secret life of Eddie.
Smooth radio.
Smooth classics at 7. No, I have Radio 5 Live in the morning, because I like to hear the news and a little bit of chat, a little bit of sports chat. So the boys, when they're getting ready for college, they like to hear the football, obviously. And then I turn it over to the classic that's Radio 2 for a bit of, sometimes I have Chris Evans, sometimes I have Zobel, depends on my mood, what sort of music I'm looking for. And then I mix it up. This is so exciting. And then when I've dropped the kids at school and I start work, if I don't have to talk to you and it's normal work, I put on a few podcasts, Gary, and I have those on my little Alexa, and I have those during the day. I don't like the radio on during the day. And then I put the radio back on, but I never have quiet in the house. I think because I'm in the house so much by myself, I like a bit of noise. And then if I go out and leave the dogs, they have Classic FM. They like that.
Only the best. Only the best for the dog.
Oh, it was a mad week. I am like you, Gary. I'm having a down week this week, though. Forced rather than wanted. But actually, my legs are shot. I am hobbling, Gary. I'm seriously hobbling. I've got a massage later, thank goodness, because my IT band. These things that start like a little bit tight, and then I just carry on and then carry on. And yesterday, by the time we were finishing our run with the kids coming down the peak, because the downhills are all so steep. I was like, seriously, oh my God, this is so sore. So I'm not going to run today. I've got a massage a bit later. Will do my strength, but probably adapt it a little bit. Anyway, I planned a bit of a down week this week and next week due to family affairs. That's all fine. Don't panic. Don't panic. It'll all be fine. And it's good to have. I've done, like, I was looking back, 7 weeks of pretty good, solid, hardcore miles, lots of vert, lots of gym. So I need to let that soak in as well. I think when we last talked, I'd just done those hill reps with no water. Oh my God, I felt really ill for that. That was stupid. I didn't run again that week without water, but actually the weather went downhill a bit anyway. So that was the hottest day. Looking back at my splits as well, I worked, as I was doing it, it felt like a moderate session, but it was a lot harder than I thought. I think it probably was the whole week then. I just never caught up on the recovery because I ran hard uphill, really steep uphill, and I ran everything on the hill reps. And then I ran pretty hard down the hill too. My legs then didn't really function for the rest of the week. And as I say every week, we live and learn. I should just jogged easy down. Some time thoughts, Gary. I had to get back to you. I can't mess around. As runners, we're so guilty of this. If you feel good, what do? You run a bit fat. Like, I was just loving life. It was sunny. I was in my crop top, my cycling shorts. I'm pretty sure I looked like Katie Scheid winning the Western States as I ran down that hill. And I
separated a birth.
She's got good biceps, Gary. They're probably bigger than you. Anyway, you talk about being 40 and you're okay. I was really stiff and exhausted. Warming up for the strength work in the gym, I was having to 15, 20 minutes of foam roll. So funny. I'd foam roll, stretch, and then I'd set the weights up and then I'd be like, no, I need more.
Talking about your IT band though, do you foam roll the outside of your thigh? It's probably the only thing I can really foam roll is my IT band and my glute. It's 11 out of 10 pain though for me, that.
It is so painful, isn't it? I find it easier to foam roll upstairs. On the carpet.
Okay.
Were you wondering where this was going? Gary went all hot and sweaty then.
Same colour as my top.
I find if I've got a soft carpet, it's easier because I don't know if it gives a bit more give. I don't know why. Shut up. You said, Eddie, there's no smut today.
A soft carpet.
And now you've gone all... Anyway, yes. Yeah, I was finding mobility before my strength was taking me longer than my strength sessions. Anyway, we had a lovely long run with, as we call him, Scott from Scotland, Karen Nichols' husband, who's been on the show. He's training for Late 100, Gary.
Ooh, how old is he?
21, 22, I think.
We can be friends.
Not sure how old he is. He enjoyed a lovely run with me and my mate Amy, who's training for TDS. She's getting into great shape, and we took him on our 20-mile route, which we would call an easy route because it's only got about 1,200 1,300 meters of climbing in it, and quite a lot of running, but the climbing is quite intense. But it's not like super technical. It's just up and down a few mountains. But what I never appreciate when people come over as well is the altitude, because I don't live super high. I live about 1,300. But then when we go running, we're going up to 1,800, 1,900, 2,000. So that does make quite a lot of difference. But we are totally acclimatized to that now. I don't really notice it. When people come out, then they're not exerting themselves, but you can hear the
I was thinking about this a lot, actually, with all the Western states chat on various podcasts and those poor Brits, if they've not acclimatized.
That must be like, I know what it feels like, and you can't get your breath. It feels like someone's pushing on your chest, and you can't understand as well. Like the two women in front of you are going, so then I said to him that he really shouldn't be doing like that. And I just cannot handle it. You got to put your pants in the wash basket. For God's sake, you two, can you not just shut up for a minute? But we took him what I call Marmot Central. I just took Lindy. I didn't take Tarky because it was too far for Tarky to run that, and it's hot. But we run through all these marmots. You can hear the marmots whistle. You can hear them as they go. Lindy knows that noise, so she has to stay on my waist belt a lot because we've had an incident there. We'll just call it an incident. I'm not going to go into details because people might turn against Lindy. It wasn't her fault. He was old. Anyway, so she has to stay on the lead a lot. It's really hard work. When the like really steep downs, I can't keep her on the lead. I have to like take the lead bit off and just hold it. It really scares me, and it hurts my knees, and I'm running down with her. So it's quite hard work having a dog, as you know, on the lead for the whole run. You can't really relax. We stopped at her, but I promised Scott. Scott looked down where we were going. He's like, I'll tell you what. This is not a school-type accent. I'll tell you what, Eddie, you carry on running down here and I'm just going to turn around, you catch me back up. No, it's not the way it works. You're in it. You got to come with us. But I promised him that we'd run to this refuge and he could have a red ambulance or an orange ambulance, as is our new favourite now. Got to refuge, got little drinks, let Lindy off the lead for a little bit. This bunny that must have been like a farmyard bunny, because the French like their bunnies for bunny pie, ran across right in front of Lindy. So she like went flying, knocked chairs, tables, trying to get to this bunny. It ran underneath this car and then ran out and ran into a barn. She's such a dumbass. She thought it was still under the car. So she was like going round and around the car. And I was like, if she'd known it had gone into this barn, she'd have ran in there and there would have been bunny massacre. Because we'd run like 11 miles. My legs were so stiff. I couldn't get to it in time. I was like, Lindy, down these steps. It was hilarious. Anyway, she's so stupid. She was like, hey, trying to get under the car. It's like, Lindy the bunny went a long time ago. Anyway, that was about the highlight of Lindy's whole run. But it was fun. Not often I run 20 miles around here because it takes such a long time, unless we do this route where there is quite a bit of running. 20 miles takes a long time, but felt pretty good. The next day I didn't feel good. Met my mates who were all like great runners, but also a lot fresher than me. And I just hung off the back in my head, wanting to lie down and die. So I drove straight from that run to the cafe where I had a meeting, and I said to them, prepare yourself. I need to drink all the fluid that you've got, whatever you've got on the menu, just put it in a glass, bring it over here, smoothies, tea. Sat there for about 3 weeks. 3 weeks? I like to sat there for 3 hours drinking all the drink. Oh, it felt good. I also enjoyed sitting there because it was my last hour of freedom before the boys finished college, and we have 10 weeks of summer holiday.
Yeah, George has gone on night shift now. It's all summer holiday, so literally he'll slowly move his body clock.
Yeah, so this morning it was like Eve's is still at school, so got her up, got the message from the teacher saying, don't forget the cake ingredient, because Evie's making her birthday cake at school today. So I was going around all the cupboards going, right, we've got flour, we've got eggs, why did you choose, because they get to choose their cake recipe, why did you choose the one with Smarties? What time does Carrefour open? It opens at 8. Eve's got to be at school at 8:15. I was like, right, let's do this, girl. And then bought that classic breakfast ingredient of butter, Smarties and food colouring. Always know when someone's been doing that, because Eve doesn't come out of school and the first thing she says to me is I'm hungry, and also she's on a sugar high, and she took 2 packets of Smarties in, so all the kids are going to come out. I complain about the kids being on holiday. I know it's a privilege. No, it's a privilege to have kids, and also it's a privilege that they get such a long holiday, and they are so good. They've gone They've gone off for today. They've packed the bags, they're meeting a friend, and they will probably not appear until they're hungry. When we were growing up, we didn't have mobile phones. The only downside is they won't look at it. And reason they don't look at it is because they know the only time I'm going to message them is tell them it's time to come home. So they're like, if we don't look at it and put it at the bottom of the bag, she can't get hold of us. Yeah, so a good week, but super tiring. And I'm actually really glad I'm going to have a couple of busy work, kids, family related weeks so that my knees, ankles. It's hard running around here, Gary. It's hard because it's not the up, it's not the flat, it's not the hours. I find it's the downhill.
Oh, sometimes I just think I've had enough of going. If they've seen the lakes and it's really steep, it's just like enough is enough. And the thought of then having wrecks strapped to me. Oh,
that I just can't. So I finished my week. We finished our week. The weather has been pretty rubbish. Really low cloud and drizzle and damp. It's not good for my bones and my IT bands anyway. Sunday, super unmotivated. This is bad. I use my kids as motivation. Super unmotivated. Just needed like an hour and a half run to finish off the week. Kids, will you come with me? One was keen, one was less keen. The less keen one always gets more keen. So I promised them I'd take them on this rope chain path that we can't see it, but it's a cliff above our house. Oh my God. So it's 2,000 feet up to get to this chain in about a mile and a half.
It's like a via ferrata. Is that what it's?
Yeah, it's like a via ferrata across the cliff, but it's not, you don't need to be clipped up. Well, that you're not clipped on, but it's got a chain for you to hold. Yeah. It's not the drop is 2,000 feet, but it's like got trees and stuff. So you can't see the drop as such. You can see how far up high you are, but you kind of don't feel too exposed because you've got all these bushes and stuff. It is really steep, the first inject up to get to this path. Bryn and I were blowing. Oh my God. And then every little bit that got flat, they were running. And I was like, guys, we hike these bits. Of course, I had to keep up with them because I didn't want them going, oh, Mum, you're useless. God, I was absolutely dropping the sweat by the time. They're not even like, kids don't get sweaty. They're like, literally I don't understand. Don't get sweaty. They don't really get out of breath either. And then their incredible ability, we got to the top and I'd taken obviously a bag of snacks. So like, come in Mars bar. I was like, oh, really? Do you want to? I was like,
straight in with the Mars bar.
Yeah, straight in. Mars bar Twix. Are you ready? Let's go then, Mum. Normally, Mummy has a little sit down here. Anyway, we took them across. I stopped on the middle of the chains to show them a little bit of chain etiquette, rope etiquette, how when you've got lots of people, how you spread yourself out on the chains, all that. Check the chain like before you start, look at the secure, if it's secure, because often these chains after the winter, they have to be reattached because of the freeze thaw in them. So you have to be like,
scare me. I don't like the sound of this at all.
So we talked to, as I was going and I was pulling on the chain and Bryn was like, can we not maybe stop here? Because I got off and I was like standing on the path. He's like, I'm right in the middle and you're wangling the chain. Oh, yeah, sorry, Bryn, kind of like you. Go on you go. And yeah, this was the undoing then of my IT band. It was really cold. And so we'd done all the climbing and then it's a long run down, but we just ran down the piste rather than coming down like the rocky, muddy bit. There was a big mountain bike competition. So the kids wanted to watch this all the time as we were going down, got really cold. And the down, it took us forever to run down. It kept starting, let's watch, because they keep pulling off. So sore by the end of that. So back upstairs on the carpet, Gary, with my foam roller. No rest for the wicked. I always think it's quite good to get a little niggle to go, I've neglected my, I need my hour and a half. I mocked you last week. I need my hour and a half. So I did think of you because while we were watching England football, I was back on my IT band. Oh yeah, and then the last thing I did the webinar for Area Events with Jay from.
I enjoyed that.
I still could see it. I messaged Gary going, "Is it you? Is it Gary?" Because I could only see like 4. It said how many people were online on the thing, but I could only see like a few names, but I could see that it was you. I was like, "What? I hope is that Gary." Gary, am I doing okay, Gary? I
kept typing questions in, but then other people, Shane would ask the question, so I never got a chance to.
I couldn't type back on that chat because I could see questions coming in, and I was like, as Jay was talking, I could have replied. It probably didn't give me permission because, like, Eddie, you should be concentrating on the chat. But it's recorded on YouTube. Quite a few people have asked it. I'll find out when they're going to put it on YouTube. And different experience to doing something like that. Like, that's proper live, man. People are watching.
I enjoyed it though. Jim was good. good MC. If anybody's thinking about doing one of these races, Dragon's Back race, Cape Wrath or Northern Traverse, 100% tune into these webinars. It was this.
Not sure Jay listens to the podcast though, a bit upset about that. Not sure he even knew who I was.
Do you listen to their podcast?
Even listen to the one he talked about when he did Cape Wrath before, so that I was prepped and ready. I actually did research for my webinar. I said to Shane, did you hear that when he said, Eddie, what was the highlight? And I said, I think it was seeing you at the end and we had a hug, the picture you have by your bed now, Shane. I don't think he knew how to take that. He was like, maybe he does have it by his bed. And he was like, how did you know?
How did you know?
I love that company. They're so professional. Like we had 20 minutes chat before about how we're going to do the webinar, what they wanted, stuff like that. Charlotte that does it all is so nice. And last time I'd seen Charlotte was 6K from the end in a full yellow Arena Events outfit. And she's always so lovely. I love it. I'd do anything for that. Good people. Good people. Love good people. So finished off good week. Gary has all the deets. I don't have all the stats, but it was about 73, 74 miles and 16,000 feet of climbing. It was hard. I go with it on Sunday afternoon. I'm lying on the sofa, writing, checking in with clients, and I can't move my legs. And that always, to me, another good week in the books. Right. Talking about old, tired, washed up legs. How are you?
I was a good boy. We said last week.
You're a good boy.
I was planning to go back down to 80 miles because I think I went up to 90. But the reality of it, I thought, well, you know what? I constantly say stuff like this and I end up probably doing 96. But no, I dropped it back down to 80. Yeah, it was very good. And I did my non-negotiables, did all the strength, and I dropped it down to 80 miles. That was because I mentioned that extra workout I was going to do. Yeah, fine. I'm so tired. Mondays and Tuesdays, exhausted. And I'm hoping, like with the marathon, that it's all going to come good when I'm in the taper.
Where are we now? We got 27 days?
4 weeks. Well, roughly 4 weeks.
Yes. Is it the 27th? Is that when it is? 26th?
26th, yeah, it kicks off. So 1 or 2, depending on, some people like a bit of a shorter taper, but 1 or 2 weeks of graft and then it's easing off. Everyone's got a few aches and pains, a few niggles. So as
any
usual,
AC/DC playing in
no, my hamstring's always a bit... It's always a bit of an issue with the hamstring. And then, with the Trails Classic, you think everything's fine, then you kick a rock and then it finds your little niggle immediately. So, yeah, sometimes I get shooting pains in my hamstrings and then it goes into my knee too, which isn't, but the whole thing's connected. It's on my left. I've said it a few times, that whole chain on the left-hand side is not 100%. But yeah, that 90 minutes of foam rolling with the football seems to keep it a bit. But all the non-negotiables done again. I think I mentioned it before. I was struggling to find that rhythm, but maybe about 7 or 8 weeks out from the race, I just thought this is the time. I can't faff around anymore with this. And yeah, I'm ticking it out. But as usual, I'm just loading it to the back of the week. It seems the week just drifts. And before I know it, it's kind of trying to do everything in that Friday, Saturday and Sunday. George is lifting more weight and it will not be long until he's putting more weight than his dad on those bars. And to be fair, it's not a high bar. I'm not exactly the strongest guy out there.
Are you gone beyond the bar yet though? Are you just lifting the bar at the moment?
Yeah, just the bar, depending on what the exercise is actually. But yeah, it won't be long. And I just love seeing his little face when he's like, because everything's still, for argument's sake, on the shoulder press with the machine and you put the weights on it. I think I was like 22 and a half kilos on each one and whatever the weight of the bar is. And George was like, I'm just going to try this weight. And he did the 8 reps of it. And you could just see his face. He was like, yes, it won't be long. It won't be long, Dad. But the first workout of the week was pretty similar to last week, actually. 4 3s, 4 2s, 4 1s, 4 30 seconds. I think last week it was 4 4s and then 4 2s. I halved everything, but this was start with a 4 3s.
I don't listen, to be honest. I use this time to catch up on my WhatsApp messages. But yeah, look, sounds familiar.
I know it's just getting faster and faster, but with the reduced recovery, loved it. But similar, I just didn't drink enough, didn't appreciate the heat, and it wiped me out. And I was going to do my gym session afterwards.
I remember we talked about it.
Yeah, we chatted. I couldn't face it. I just jogged home, which couldn't do it. And the other workout for the week was, totally made this up because it wasn't on the plan. I just clanked the treadmill up to about 10 or 12%, and with the warm up, about 10 minutes and warm down 10 minutes, but then 40 minutes in between was this uphill, up tempo. And I think I've translated that as around marathon effort. But yeah, in a gym, especially on a marathon effort, you should be able to run for, well, personally, about 3 hours at that pace. But I was glad when that 40 minutes was. I had to take a change of clothes because after the workout earlier in the week.
I often do my session and then change and do my gym if I'm doing it that way.
Yeah.
And then I tell you what, Gary, you will never experience this. You will never know how hard this is. But getting on a new sports bra when you're hot and sweaty is one of the hardest things known to man. And it can cause terrible scapular cramping because it gets all caught up above. Well, you know, I have an enormous pair of breasts as well. It gets all caught up and you're just stuck in the changing room. You're like, nobody come in. Nobody come in.
It's like trying to get a compression top on off after if you've done a race or a workout or something. Literally, that is the hardest thing ever. But after that 40 minutes, I went straight into my weight session. I was absolutely pooped. Started dropping the weights now, though. I'm not bothered about adding more and more weight on. It's lowering the weights, increasing the reps ahead of the 100. Esme turned 18 on Saturday, but she had friends over on Friday night. We were kicked out. Esme kicked George, me and Lisa out. Also, no damage to the house. The neighbours all still speak to us, which is, we did prep them. We did warn them there was going to be a party going on. And
What time did you come back?
About 11 o'clock. But then we just scurried upstairs and they were still going downstairs. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm not going to get any sleep. But I was so pooped after. We did an epic walk. So we went to see him, had a chippy tea and oh goodness me, it must have been like a 5 or 6 mile walk. Such a dream on the beach, loads of sea, fresh air. I was absolutely exhausted. So I thought I wouldn't get any sleep, but I literally fell asleep in about 10 seconds, but felt absolutely wrecked on Saturday. You wait on Saturday with George and then a love run with Lisa on Saturday. Yeah, I was just exhausted. I'm thinking, how the hell am I going to do this long run on Sunday over at the lakes? Because my legs felt so pooped. Pooley Bridge to Mardale Head out and back on Sunday. And it was a little bit quicker than Lakeland 100 pace. Yeah, super cruisy. So happy with that. And I missed Robin, Zoe, Hannah, Sam and Simon. Yeah, they must have been doing, I'm not too sure of their route, but I saw pictures of around Mardale Head.
You missed them or you weren't invited and they ran a higher path when they
100% wasn't invited. But yeah, it would have been great to bump into them on the trails. But I was worried, you know, when you go with somebody for a run, you're kind of mindful that you don't want to be the crap one hanging off the back of the pack.
Oh, I'm never mindful. I'm always the crap one hanging off the back. I can get less. I'm like, everyone can just wait for me or I'll see you later.
Well, my tiredness, like I've said, what have you done? My tiredness just seemed to be building during the week. So I was worried how Sunday was going to go. But I needn't have worried. The miles ticked along nicely. And yeah, under that, for me, I think the average pace for the Lakeland 100, if I'm lucky enough to be in, that's around about the 24-hour range, is like 13:45, something like that. So we were about just over 13-minute mile at average pace. And yeah, we chatted with some listeners, saw some listeners out on the trails. We stopped taking pictures. It was not just constant moving. Yeah, like I said, bumped into some listeners too. I didn't catch everyone's name, so apologies for that. But it was good to see Alex on the trails. Bumped into Andy Berry too in the Reghead service stations. Yeah, another runner who appreciates the fine fare.
What was he buying? Scotch eggs?
I did not.
I'm amazed. I'd have thought you would have got in his basket and then copied exactly what you bought. And probably followed him into the toilet until he asked you to leave.
Andy.
Can I have your number, Andy? Because we haven't got each other's numbers, so that might be a good idea, you know, like just in case I need to contact you.
But yeah, it's good. It's always nice to see. You know, I always love seeing our listeners out on the trails.
We know. I get the emails from their PA afterwards.
But yeah, I'm super sleepy now. It's Monday, but another solid week. 80 miles, all the gym, 2 workouts, and about 13,000 feet of vert. No dramas. Yeah, another one down. Brew the coach's time, and this week, listener Helen Plant has a real pain in the butt. This week's Brew the Coaches question comes from Helen Plant. I have been struck with piriformis syndrome, literally a pain in the arse. I'm working with a physio to get on top of it and avoid re-injury, but any other insights, advice would be really helpful. Running is the thing that really seems to aggravate it. I'm a 52-year-old mid-pack runner. I run 25 to 40 miles per week, depending on what else is going on and where I am in a training plan, plus about 15 to 20 miles of dog walking. Also, I do strength work and yoga. The injury appeared to come suddenly after a couple of big hill sessions, but I know from yoga, the left hip has always been tighter, so this was probably building for a while. I have narrow hips, which I understand will be a risk factor. I use a standing desk for work. Love the pod. Keep up the excellent work. Helen Plant. Well, for me, piriformis syndrome, it seems super common, but maybe in my earlier journey as a runner, I'm not too sure of Helen's history as a runner, and I do feel it occasionally still if I basically neglect strength and conditioning, if I take my eye off it. What about you guys? Any experience, Trish, any experience with yourself or any of your athletes with piriformis syndrome?
Yeah, so I used to get piriformis syndrome quite a bit. The major reason for me getting it, I think, was predominantly strength training. So it's good that you're doing strength training. I'd say continue it. It depends what you're doing, basically, for strength training. So, you do need to be, I would say, lifting heavier weights, and it does need to be quite specific to the area that obviously where you're having the issue in your butt. So continue with the strength work. And obviously, if you're working with a physio, I'd assume a physio would be giving you specific strength exercises that are going to help with that. So the physio is, they're the ones who are going to know exactly where you need to target your strength work there. So continue doing that. One of the biggest things that's worked for me in terms of getting rid of it, I found, is using a massage gun. So after I do like a speed session or a hard session, I will get my massage gun out and I will sit on the sofa or whatever, and I will use my gun, and I do that quite regularly, and particularly after after a good hard session. So get your gun out, get it around the bum, get it also around the hip area as well. I've had quite bad fractal tears around my hips as well, and you might have elements of that which contribute to tightening of the hip and that as well. So really get the gun out, get it all around the hip area and the butt, and that's been a massive game changer for me. I don't have any issues now, I would say, with that. So yeah, check that out. It might work for you, it might not.
Keeping it loose is key, isn't it? It's the tightening that causes the pain. And so I would add, if a Theragun, or I'm sure there's other guns on the market, foam rolling as well, to before, after, not like super hard, but just to keep it relaxed, sitting on a spiky ball as well, maybe while you're working, or as Trish said, on the sofa, just trying to get the muscle to relax, because it's not actually like a torn muscle, is it? It's like a tightening. And so you want to keep reminding that muscle that it doesn't need to be tight all the time, that it can relax. Definitely look as well before any running, that you're doing some glute activation as well. So there's loads of stuff on the internet, but things like clamshell, bird dogs, fire hydrants, a little bit of light rolling, some monster walks, using your band to make sure that your glutes are warmed up and ready to go as well, and that you're having a really good warm up and a cool down before sessions as well. I deep dive as well into your strength work and your yoga, and making sure that, as Trish said, it's really specific to what you need. Spending a bit of money and working with a PT that perhaps has experience of this, or is experienced working with ultra runners, and will be looking at your form. Because you might be going to the gym and doing some exercises, but actually you could be leaning a little bit to one side to compensate for that tightness. And then actually the work that you're doing is not helping. It's almost encouraging the piriformis. So maybe working with a PT as well. One of the things you do have to keep doing with this syndrome is moving. So you're doing really well. So actually being active about it as well. Anyone else that suffers from it, you do have to keep, like any sort of like nerve damage like that, you have to keep moving in order for it to recover as well. Sorry, You've got this, but it is a long term, it's not something that goes away. It's something probably that you have to keep on top of with. in your running and active life as well. But that's
I think my physio phrased it as I was flossing the sciatic. Let's say I'd lie on my back and drag my knee into my chest, but instead of like a long hold for a stretch, I would just be kind of pump it.
Reminding it, keep moving, keep flossing. I like that.
Yeah, I agree with all of that as well. And I would just say, like Eddie hit on there, which was my point, but I had it stolen, was just the moving. How important that is. It's so easy to get into a negative headspace when you get an injury and it hurts every time you run. And people really discount walking for how beneficial it really is. And I'm always trying to emphasize that with athletes that I coach that pick up an injury like this, that's probably going to take a few weeks, a few months to heal. Get out walking, and you're doing that. If you can load that up a little bit, maybe rucksack, weight vest or something, just so you're really feeling like you're getting some benefits. So psychologically, that helps. You're building something in that's going to keep you really big and strong and robust and ready, so that when it does clear up, you're fit and your body knows how to run, because it's been taking that load throughout the process, rather than just move on to biking or swimming. And then when you feel better and you're ready to run, your body is like, whoa, what's this? All this gravitational load, I'm not ready for it. So keep up with the walking, and then maybe think about loading up as well, I would say.
Having said that about cycling is a great way to check that you're equal on both sides, because if she's got a dominant side as well while she's pedaling, you can really listen to the pedals and you can see if you're putting force down on one pedal more than the other. So it might be a good idea as well to put a little bit of a bit of bike work on with your gym work as well, because it's a great way to even yourself out as well. And the same with hill walking. If you go on the treadmill or if you do it outside, as you're going up the hill, you can feel you might have a side where you're putting on more effort, and you can really concentrate on your form and make sure that you're pushing the same amount of power and force through both sides. Use poles as well, and that will help you as well if you're putting weight on your back, making sure that you're not overdoing it.
Free weights are great like that too. If you go into the gym, sometimes a machine can hide a weakness on one side of your body, but if you do, say, dumbbells or something, then you can really appreciate which side is stronger or weaker than the other. Best of luck, Helen.
Good luck, Helen.
You had this, Helen.
Thanks for your question, Helen. Yeah, hopefully that helped. And if you have a question for the coaches and you are a Patreon, then email hello@teaandtrails.com.
Hello. I copy Gary in on all my email correspondence. I do at hello and Tea and Trails just to annoy him, really. Here's another email. Hello. Hi, Gary.
Hello.
Hello. Just because you're my one friend. My one true friend. That's what I say to Bryn. You're my one true friend. He's like, oh, go away.
Too much.
So I do the same to the kids. Mom, get off. You have to force them love, don't you? They don't like, they're like,
that. Get off me.
Oh God, you're disgusting. Get away from me. But then very occasionally they'll move in for a little bit of a head tilt.
Not from me. No. Old George, another matter. George always goes in for a cuddle.
Oh, I love that. That's why we have dogs, because they're always up for a smoke. Main interview. This week we chat with AJ Hanspal, super inspiring guy, super lovely guy. Let's get straight into our chat with AJ. Hi, AJ. Welcome to Tea and Trails podcast. Fresh off a double Paddy Buckley round. Let's have some stats. Love stats. Gary loves stats. Now, are these right? AJ, you can tell us.
Oh, yeah, you can correct us, yeah.
Yeah, correct us if it's not right. 131.93 miles.
Oh, very nice.
Didn't round that one up. Didn't get back to the car park and think I'm going to go for 132.
No, I should have probably just started it again.
Yes, I would have gone round again to round that off. Disappointing from the start, but never mind. 58,537 feet of vert. up and down. Oh my God, your poor quads.
Yes, don't forget the down.
52 hours, 52 minutes and 15 seconds. I'd call that a solid day and a bit out.
Solid.
2 days and a bit out. Jeez, I cannot wait to get the deets on that.
What's it like though, AJ? I've fortunate enough to have done the Bob Graham round, never done the Paddy. I've been on some of those trails with Dragon's Back race. The stats on paper look kind of similar, but when you're on the trails, what's it like? What's the difference?
Yeah, well, I must admit, I've not done an entire Bob Graham round, but I have supported on a few legs. I would say, over 2,500 people have completed a Bob Graham, and I believe on the Paddy it's less than 300. I would just say
heavy flex right at the start there, AJ. Let's just drop that in.
Yeah, let's just drop that in there. Yeah, I mean, on paper they're very, very similar. I think they're similar distance, similar-ish up and down. I think the Paddy's got maybe 2,000 or 3,000 feet more up and down, but then on the Bob, I guess you have the 5 miles of road at the end. It's probably just a little bit steeper, a little bit rougher, and has a bit more exposure in places. I mean, I spoke to Martin Stone, and he's under the impression it's sort of 60 to 90 minutes slower, and I guess I trust his judgment. Rumour has it he's quite a accomplished and wise runner.
A lot of the Bob Graham route is now sort of lined out. You know, a lot of the paths are now pretty. You never want to say it was easy, but there are more. I guess on the Paddy Buckley, if there's only been just over 300 people that have done it, the path is not a path as such.
It's not particularly well established. I'd say over the glidders, like on leg 1, if you start in Llanberis and go clockwise, like they're fairly well trodden mountains. Like there are bluffs on leg 1, certainly for the first half of leg 2. And then I'd say actually, from the second half of leg 2, most of leg 3, most of leg 4, the first bit onto the Snowdon Massif is pretty entirely off trail, but I mean, like properly off trail. Yeah, there's some summits on leg 3. A lot of people complain about leg 3, and essentially on the first half of that leg, there's a lot of summits which aren't really summits, and it's just sort of like rocky outcrops, and you're following a fence line and you peel off to go and touch this summit. But the only people who have been there are people on the Paddy, and it's pushing your way through heather and bracken and bog.
It does feel like on the Bob, actually, leg 1, even as leg 2 super popular with all like Helvellyn Range and stuff like that, but even on leg 1, when you get at the back of Skiddaw, just don't see anybody, but all those thousands of people who've done it, and the recce's and the support people, the pacers, it still feels like not many people come around here.
Do you think part of that is just the timing of the year? Because I found doing it in early spring, that was the downside of, like, you have all this fresh vegetation and no one's beating it back. Yeah, it felt like Jurassic Park almost, just like beating away.
Yeah, I love it. What's the decent with the Paddy? Do you have to, again, the Bob's very formal, you start and finish the Moohorn Keswick, you've got to register your attempt, you have to, well, if you've not done it before, you have to then have witnesses for each summit. What happens with the Paddy?
Yeah, the Paddy's a lot more relaxed compared to the other two in regards to start and finish. You can start and finish anywhere. I guess most people will start in either Llanberis or Capel-Curig, probably about a 50-50 split on where you start. I don't think either way is particularly quicker than the other. I guess, Russell Bentley, he's pretty adamant that anti-clockwise is quicker, but most people do tend to go clockwise. I went both. I found anti-clockwise particularly troublesome, but maybe that was because I'd already ran around. So
it might have, little bit.
So I think my opinion might be a little bit skewed. But as a round, it's a lot more relaxed. Like you don't need to do a witness log. And Paddy Buckley was, for a long time, sort of the gatekeeper and admin keeper of it all. But there was no website. It was just his email address. But Wendy Dodds, I think last year, took that over. Wendy Dodds so she was the first person to actually complete a Paddy Buckley round in under 24 hours. Yeah, a lot more relaxed than the Bob Graham. And I think that's why it sort of appealed, actually, in the first place.
It was such a treat, kind of getting the certificate and stuff like that, Brad. Yeah, the kind of loosey-goosiness of the Paddy sounds great. I've got so far ahead of myself. I've got to rewind a bit.
I have kept quiet, but it has messed with my chi that you have just jumped in.
Just immediately off course.
Immediately off course.
And that is not normally something I do, AJ. I will stay locked to that script. Anyway, the first question we ask all of our guests: where are you? What's the view from your window? And have you been for a run today?
Oh, that's a brilliant question. I'm down in Lewis in East Sussex, not known for its mountains particularly.
Good though, you can still get nice vert though.
I've got a view onto the South Downs. Yeah, this runnable vert. Yeah, I've got a view onto the South Downs, and I haven't been for a run today. Today's my enforced rest day, unfortunately.
How do you find that rest day? I've got rest day today too, and it leaves me wanting. Not that, but I do love not running because I'm really tired. But I'm also like, then you just don't like. It's just not the same. Routine's all out the window, and I have to have a shower and stuff and get dressed.
Oh, yeah, you have to be a normal human being for a whole day. Yeah, it goes by slowly. I just get a little bit restless, but I do think it's important. I mean, I'm a coach as well, and for all my athletes, I'm pretty strict. I do tend to enforce a rest day on everyone. I'm coached by Damien Hall, and he's pretty strict with his rest days as well. So
I remember that when Damien was on the show. Yeah, he did say his rest day. I never.
Gary never has a rest day, AJ, and it drives me up the wall because then he whines at me and I'm like, well, you could. He says, well, yeah, I'm just running like 8 to 10 miles and it's all easy.
I think you can run every day. Like, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It just depends how you structure your week. If you're going out and running hard every day or moderate, then probably not. But if it's truly easy and pretty short, I think it's generally okay.
I don't have a rest day every week, but I normally have one enforced because I've dug a hole. Anyway.
Yeah. Why'd you go with a coach though, AJ? I'm always curious. Eddie's a coach, yourself the coach, but then you have a coach. Well, you got all the tools, you got the toolbox. Why go for a coach?
In fact, my coach has a coach, and his coach's coach has a coach. So it's like an unending stream of coaching. I mean, I think I could go self-coach, but in all honesty, I think it's the classic case of taking your own advice is often the hardest. And I think I'll just end up doing too much and probably overtraining. I really value the input Damien's had on my coaching, and I've been coached by him for 3-ish years. We're not sick of each other yet. It got close during the paddy. He's been brilliant, and I consider him a close friend.
You can't get away now.
I can't get away.
He leans in on you too much.
I keep trying to annoy him, but he doesn't.
When I listen to other people who are coaching, they seem to be like psychologists. They have to give like tough love, and then they have to be a cheerleader too. Yeah. It's not just giving someone a training plan. There's so much more.
No, I actually think the training plan bit is the easiest part of it. I think it's getting to know people and their lives and their expectations. And with my athletes, I get like the whole spectrum of people who are like me, I guess. You need to be, hold them back, stop them from doing too much. And then you get other people who are like, you need a bit of a kick out the front door almost. Yeah, everywhere along that spectrum. It just takes time as well to get to know where people are at. I think that's the benefit of having a coach. I tell people, it's a benefit when it's a long-term relationship. I think you're only going to get something out of it if it's sort of more than ideally 6 months. I'm not a firm believer in just doing one-off training plans. You
said it's rest day today, but are you back doing workouts?
I am.
Oh,
yeah. I think I had after the double paddy. I think my plan was like 7 to 10 days off. In all honesty, I was running again after 5. Whether that was a good thing or not is questionable. I think my muscles and joints were okay, actually. It was just my endocrine system, central nervous system, that sort of underlying fatigue. That probably wasn't quite there. And I think only now, a month removed, it's only probably getting back to normal. So I think the first week after, I think I ran 20-ish miles. And then,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, sort of 2 weeks around 50, 60. And then, last week was the first sort of big week back, sort of up around sort of 15 hours, sort of 80, 90 miles.
Some of our listeners may not have heard of you, but could you share with our listeners a bit about you and your journey into ultra running?
My name's AJ, if you didn't know that already. I'm 25 years old. I'm a mountain, trail and ultra runner. I'm a coach to some amazing people, phenomenal athletes. I also do some environmental activism and a bit of a climate hypocrite. Yeah, I guess I started running after a brain injury that I sustained in the armed forces, and that was back in 2018. I also do some work around that, sort of championing well-being through sport and sort of raising awareness around brain injuries, and that people can actually sort of stay active after a brain injury, and that it does sort of get better. Part of my rehabilitation sort of for vestibular physiotherapy was walking on trails, and then walking became jogging and jogging became running. And then I got very carried away very quickly and had a bit of a quarter life crisis. And here we are.
What was your first dip into ultra running? When you say you built up into it, were you like tried a sort of trail half marathon, or did you just go?
I was a bit of an idiot. Well, this is the thing, like part of the balanced physiotherapy was getting out on trails, but they were also really keen on like mindfulness.
Can I ask why was that? Why did they want you to get out on trails?
It was to do with like walking on unbalanced surfaces, triggering like proprioception, and maybe they were just trying to kick me out. I don't know.
Maybe they were like, go for a long walk, AJ. We'll see you after that.
Well, this is the thing. Like, they were really keen on mindfulness. I was having a lot of like personality changes at the time and irritability, but I found that the mindfulness practices didn't really work. So I found actually
moving,
being out on the trails by myself, out in nature, that was better. So I sort of led heavily towards that. And over the next year or so, I just took it a bit far, maybe, and sort of found myself on my days off, like going out for long runs. And a friend of mine said, you know, if you're going out for several hours, why don't you just do a race? Because then at least if you're not well,
I love that. The race director can cope with it.
Yeah, like at least there's aid stations, there's tracking, there's free food. Well, not free, I guess you're paying for it with the race entry, but at least there's some structure there. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that sort of makes sense. So I looked up races near me, and there was like a 50-mile race. Yeah, it was from like Eastbourne to Hever Castle in, so East Sussex, Kent area. And I just entered, and I was incredibly green and new to the sport. I didn't really know you could fuel or eat whilst you were running. Went out really hard, bonked, walked it in, and I did okay. And that was my first sort of competitive run, was 50 miles.
When you're in the army, though, were there any signs, like obviously, you know, super successful now with the double paddy, were you like literally basing everybody on those training runs in the army or not?
When I grew up, I wasn't, I was sporty. I tried some sports, but I wasn't, particularly good at any of them. And I was probably a little bit overweight. And then I joined the Royal Marines and, got fit. And I'll say I was like above average at running, but I wasn't at the front of the pack by any means. And a lot of the stuff we did does translate well, I think, to ultra running. And I guess we've seen that with Tom Evans, but I certainly wasn't in the military for maybe long enough to really get that much benefit from it. I'd say it did help.
It's the mindset and the grizz, as my husband always says, like that. The ability to like just everything to be disgusting and falling apart, and you to be like, yes, it's just normal. This is my normal life now.
That's interesting. Like after my brain injury, a neurologist said to me, it's fairly common for people with brain injuries to get into endurance sports, especially those that sort of suffer from short-term memory problems. And I still do to this day, because you can almost, you're very good at forgetting the pain that you were in, and you can stay really present. And I guess I find that.
This is an excellent. I mean, I'm very sorry about your brain injury, but this is great. You can go and go.
Superpower.
Yeah, the superpower that we always ask people about. You're like, it didn't hurt the Paddy Buckley. I don't remember it hurting. I could do it again. I could do 3. Let's do that.
Do 3. That was a running joke during the Paddy Buckley. Was why finish at 2? Maybe.
I mean, it's our last question. Why did you finish at 2? Why not 3?
Awesome. Could we talk about, it seems like a bit of a heavy pivot. We're talking about the armed forces. Now we're going to go to Green Runners. Yeah, Green Runners. What is the Green Runners? For anyone, we do talk about the Green Runners quite often on the podcast, so most of our listeners will be aware of it. But what is it, and how can people get involved?
That's a brilliant question. The Green Runners. It's essentially just a bit of a decentralised running club, or I guess
is it England Athletics registered?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think so.
I think it's something we're going to talk about off the podcast.
Yes. Well, actually, Nina Davies, who's one of our incredible co-founders and lovely person, she has been doing a lot of work with England Athletics, and I don't quite know where it stands.
It's a lot of work to be registered, I think, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but I think a lot of people would love to be, because some races you have to be registered as a club, and I'm not got an affiliation with anywhere, so I'm like,
no, I just put down a random club.
But how cool would it be if it said Green Runners on the when you have to list your club?
I think we will eventually.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I
just for awareness. No, it's a good question.
Yeah.
At the moment, it's very much like a decentralized running club sort of movement, sort of a bit of everything, and it all sort of started from a WhatsApp group chat about just over 2 years ago now. I think we're over 2 years old. I think we've got over 1,000 members from, I think, 40 different countries. I think we have people like Killian Jornet's a member, so that says it all. John Kelly, Damien Hall, Jasmine Paris. Yeah, we're just going from strength to strength. What I'd say to people is, please just join. Like, we're not looking for perfection. We're just trying to get as many people to join us as possible, so that as a club, as an organisation, we can have a voice in the sport that people will actually listen to. And I think in the sport over the last sort of year and a half, we've definitely seen a pursuit of growth in the sport, which has sometimes not been held to account. I think organisations like the Green Runners, Pro Trail Runners Association, Protect Our Winters, we've been actually pretty effective at holding that growth to account in some way. And I mean, the obvious example is Ironman and UTMB and the whole Dacia sponsorship. And as sort of free organisations, we've been able to hold them to account a little bit and have a conversation, whereas the Green Runners didn't exist. There would be no one there to sort of hold them to account, I guess. I mean, if people can join up, that's brilliant. There's no pressure. We have 4 pillars essentially that the whole club revolves around, and that's watch me mess this up. It's how you get up, how you move, how you speak out, and how you fuel. So we just ask people to make a pledge on at least one of those areas. And the pledge can be something really big, it can be something really small, it could just be, that you want to try and take public transport more to races, or you want to make your kit last longer. Once you sign up, you can get a nice little badge. I think Dan Lawson used to make the badges, but I think that's gone to Pre-Loved Sports now.
If people are listening, it's not some kind of, sometimes people worry, with say maybe a political party like Greenpeace or something, we could be moving it as like a police state because we have to live this certain way. It's not a militant organisation.
No, you do have to stick yourself onto a road at some point. That is part of the initiation process.
Handcuffs. When you get your badge, you also get the handcuffs,
get
and it just says
by the Metropolitan Police.
If history had dealt you a different set of cards, you could have been like in the armed forces, almost like managing these protests that maybe you'd be part of these days.
You can also sign up for your kids' Green Runners as well, because I was chatting to my kids out on the trails yesterday about the Green Runners, and I was telling them about I was like, you guys could sign up, you could, there's 4 pillars, we can take a look. And they were like, oh, tell us a bit more about it, Mum. I was like, well, you have to make some choices, and I said, so Mum doesn't eat meat, and they're like, oh, we really like hamburgers. And I was like, yes, okay. And I was like, you can think about the way you travel, so like going on an aeroplane's really bad. They're like, oh, we really love going. I was like, you're not coming out, but I said, but one of the biggest things about the Green Runners is you don't have to be perfect. We will not judge each other. We are anything you do, a tiny bit of difference is all just about making a little change. So for instance, I said to the kids, you can bike up and down to the football pitch instead of getting me to come and pick you up. It's a couple of miles. It's 1,000 feet back up over a mile, but you'll be fine, kids. Push your bikes. But it's like, just kids, it's about just I always think the first thing is just the mindset, like just having a little think about before you click buy, before you book the tickets. And I think that's probably the biggest thing you've seen as Green Runners is that, for instance, UTMB, so many people are like, I won't go and do that now. I won't do that race. I don't like what the organisation are doing. And it's also a big carbon footprint for me to get to the race. And I think that is such a huge, you've made such a huge change in our very small community already.
I think there's a few things I would say. First of all, I think our most important pillar is to speak out. As you alluded to, we live in a world that's inherently imperfect. So trying to chase perfection is, but one is sort of futile, but also I don't think it's particularly fair. Like, I think the way forward in climate change as a whole is, we can't all just revert back to the 1700s. Like, that's not fair. There's not enough. I don't see enough willing people out there. Yes, I think making personal improvements and actions is worthwhile, but also I think the real change does need to come from elsewhere. It's not on us as individuals to solve a climate crisis. It really is on large organizations, businesses, governments. So if you can take some sort of reasonable action, absolutely do so. But also, look where you can't take any reasonable action. And if there's like a barrier in place, then sort of speak out against that barrier, because I think that's, to me, that's where the real change needs to come from. And in the UK, we've seen, we're a tiny country. very population dense. We should have some of the best public transport in the world. You should be able to get pretty much anywhere in public transport. But, we've had 2 years of austerity and poor funding. And suddenly, even for me, who, I think I care a lot about climate change, like sometimes it's, it's not common sense to get on a train or a bus. Sometimes it just makes more sense to drive, but it shouldn't be like that. So yeah, first thing is, just speak out and have those conversations.
I like that idea of speaking out, and sometimes it's the hardest thing to do, much harder than not to buy new trainers, isn't it? Is to sort of go against what everybody else is saying and doing, but every time you do that, somebody, like the kids, someone is listening, and it might be that they change the way they think, or you change the way that you think, just like what you said to me just then. I was thinking, I could be braver.
I used to think as a kid that public transport was just a service that was there. I had no concept that it was basically business, and if it didn't, the numbers didn't add up, then that service wouldn't be there. And where I live, it's probably this echoes all around the country. There's loads of old railway lines that used to just connect all of the northeast. And yeah, you're right. Sometimes I do just jump in the car, but you think, wow, literally, I can't even get a bus to Durham, or I can't get a bus to
HS2 for you.
No,
No. Well, this is the thing, like how I like to think about the future. Yeah, I promise we'll get onto the running soon.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, the future is here. It's just not equally spread. Like, I think a lot of the solutions for climate crisis are here. There's just like a complete lack of political will and incentive to install it. But in many ways, that's like a good thing, because this is solvable. We just need enough people to speak out about it. It's not as if it's an impossible task. If it was an impossible task, I would have probably sort of gave up a long time ago. A lot of the criticism, I guess, as to green runners we get is, why does it matter in running? Like, we're just trying to run 100 miles or 50 miles. Why why should it matter? But I think the best way of thinking about it is sports people are the most influential people on the planet. Like, people trust sports people and athletes more than politicians. If you look at the biggest events in the world, it's the Olympics, it's the World Cup. And a lot of sports look to trail, mountain running, but also sort of surfing, water sports as well, and winter sports, to sort of set the gold standard in regards to sort of sustainability and viability. That's not just in like, the environment and sustainability, but also like, economic and growth viability. So if we can set the gold standard in running, it will trickle down, like it will make a difference. Triathlon, road running, pretty much always directly look at trail running races to see what are they doing, what's the gold standard, what can we take away from that. And we're beginning to see that sort of trickle down into big road marathons and big races. So what I'd say to people is, like, it does matter. And we've seen that with Dacia and UTMB Ironman. Actually, as a collective voice, it has sort of made a difference.
Goodness me, imagine being one of the athletes who has to go and swim in the water these days, though.
Oh, God.
Oh, do you know what? I was listening. I'm an ex-triathlete, AJ, and I still follow triathlon very closely. And the Paris water is like full of excrement, basically. So some of the federations have chosen triathletes over people that are better, but because they think it will be a duathlon, they'll take the swimming out. So they've taken the risk. Then they've chosen stronger bikers and runners because the water is so bad. They're like, or they think, being French, as I have first-hand experience, they'll just ignore it and they'll all swim in it, but then they'll all get sick.
Yes.
And then the relay.
Imagine just having clean water. I mean,
yes. Can you imagine doing some work on the actual sewers
and
making
concept.
the water? The French would be like, why would we do that?
Concept,
we've got our voting, we've got elections. That takes a week. Right,
I wonder if it'll only ever really sort itself out when it becomes. It's
political.
Obviously, I suppose, cheaper to do it the way the status quo is currently, but then it comes to a point where it's just financially not cheaper for these big businesses to carry on with the status quo because the consequences are so great. That's
really interesting. Like, I really like the way you put that, and that's how I think about companies like BP and Shell. Their businesses, at the end of the day, they're driven by profit. Eventually they will realize that fossil fuels and funding new gas fields isn't sustainable. But if we speak out, we can try and make them. They will pursue renewable energy sources and nuclear power eventually. It's just, can we speed that up? Can we speak out and hold them to account and get them to make that decision sooner rather than later, because we are really running out of time.
It's great there's dialogue, but it's just a shame that it literally pushed to the brink before there's real dialogue.
Try and extract every single bit of profit out of it until it's not viable. That's a good way of putting it.
Talking about pushing to the brink, let's go back to Double Paddy Buckley Round. I just need to fill a bit of a gap in my head here. So you did the Eastbourne to Hever Castle 50 miler.
Yeah.
And then what was the gap between then and then going, hey, Damien, coaching catch-up call, let's do this Double Paddy Buckley Round. What got you there?
So my first race was in 2021. I started being coached by Damien late in 2021, just before I ran my first 100 miler, which was my third race, which was again was another questionable decision.
No, love it.
I don't give this advice to my athletes. But yeah, I guess the road to the Double Paddy Buckley started probably in 2022. So I'd signed up for the Ultra Trail Snowdonia 100-mile race, and I committed like a good 6 months of training to it. I was in really good shape, and I felt like, you know, it was going to be my breakthrough race. And actually the race itself was going really well. Like I was running in sort of third and fourth place, trying to chase Mark Derbyshire down. So
that was silly.
Wouldn't have happened. That's very silly. But yeah, it felt like everything was going really well. And then the race got cancelled upon us. And, you know, I think that's probably the right decision. It was
pretty bad.
Weather, I remember doing the 50K the next day. And
oh, did you? Good on you. Wow.
Yeah, I had this like the feeling of leaving North Wales with some frustration and like a sense of just unfinished business. So with that in mind, for next year in 2023, which was last year, I signed up to do UTS again, but I didn't even make the start line that year. I was driving up to Wales and someone decided to have a head-on car collision with me. So that wasn't ideal. So again, it was like I'd put in even more work on the hills and got to know the mountains, and again, just like more unfinished business, more frustration. And I spoke to Damien. I was like, it's part of me wants to sign up for Ultra Trail Snowdonia again, but it's a long way away. And I'm sort of getting frustrated now because it seems like I'm just getting constant bad luck.
Where's this journey going? You must have been thinking like, what is this plan? I can't see where this is going, but there was a plan.
This is the thing. Like I was at that point aware of the Paddy Buckley Round, and I sort of came to the consensus that, you know, why don't I do a Paddy Buckley Round? Like I know the hills now, you know, I'm familiar with a lot of the routes. Yeah, at least with something like a round compared to a race, you know, you can control when you go, you can control when you pick a good weather window. You know, a lot of it's in your hands. Yeah, I picked a date in August, but I must admit, ever since having a brain injury, I'm a bit, not bipolar by any means, but my personality is a bit like black and white, especially with motivation. And I find like I struggle to really drive myself to something if I know I'm not going to be competitive at it. And I think like I knew I could get around the round fairly comfortably. I knew it was going to be hard, but I also knew I could run a quick Paddy Buckley, but, you know, I was going to be nowhere near Philly Wild's time. So I kept sort of umming and ahhing, and eventually, I didn't go for it in the end. I sort of scheduled a race in October. Yeah, that was that. I sort of forgot about Wales for a bit. It was only watching Nikki Spink's documentary about her Double Paddy Buckley Round, it sort of switched something in my head, and I was like, yeah, that's what I need to do. Like, I like the way John Kelly puts it, like how he picks challenges, that it's when you pick a challenge, it needs to be, you know, right on that threshold between what you think is possible and what might not be possible. Yeah, part of me was like, I think I could do that. But the other half of me was like, I'm not sure. You know, that might be a bit too much. I guess because it sort of scared me, it also excited me quite a bit. And I certainly tell my athletes that, to sort of pick things that scare them a little bit, because then you'll respect the challenge, you'll put in the hard work. It definitely did. It seems to be the right sort of thing.
I like the 70-30 rule, like 70% of you goes, no way. And then the 30% presses the button to enter or to plan it, and you go, oh, okay, we're doing this, guys. Yep, we're doing this. All right, we're doing this. I think it's how I get my clients to choose their races. It's like, as soon as the little thing in the worm in your head goes, do it. Do it. And you're like, no, shush, be quiet. Yes. I can't. It's way too big. Way too scary. Don't have the time. Listen. I love that. Okay, so then you had the call with Damien and went, sack off the single. I'm going double.
Double.
We're going double.
And at this point, it was already early winter. So, we need to look for a date next year, so 2024, and sort of booked a rough date in the diary of sort of late May, early June. And ever since then, I guess it was sort of 9 months building up to it, but probably 6 months. 6 months of really specific training.
This is the stuff I love, this specific training. What does that look like? How did it differ from like a training for a mountain 100? Give us
the boring answer would be, I guess it doesn't. Not
really. Much.
Yeah, over winter I was in New Zealand sort of visiting family. So I spent I had sort of 3-4 months in the Southern Alps going up and down big mountains. So that definitely helped. And I was supposed to race in January, but I got COVID. But in retrospect, that might have been a bit of a blessing in disguise, because I managed to sort of recover quite quickly and keep some consistent training in there. And sort of came back to the UK February-ish, and then started really training for the Paddy Buckley. Yeah, I certainly wasn't in the mountains every day. I think you can just become a little bit slow and inefficient doing that. So
I know that feeling, and also very sore every day.
So I'd say there's like 3-4 months there where I was sort of based largely in the South Downs, just running on trails. And, a lot of it is just getting very aerobically fit, a lot of easy aerobic volume, but also a lot of quality work. I was doing intervals or challenging long runs, probably, at least once or twice a week, sometimes more. It was only probably, I'd say 2 months, 8 weeks out from the Double Paddy Buckley Round where I, got really specific with it. But it was very much, translating that overall running fitness into mountain fitness and getting the legs and body condition to, the steep up and down hills. I'd say there was probably a 4 to 6 week period where I did basically live in Snowdonia. And that was sort of thanks to a guy called Alistair who let me stay in Snowdonia for quite a reasonable chunk of change. Otherwise, I just wouldn't have been able to afford it.
Any strength and conditioning in there?
I must admit, I'm not very good at doing it.
Well, you're a Marine. You're a Marine. Do you need it because you're like so...
Well, I think it's really important early on in a training block, especially if you're doing a lot of road mileage or flatter running. I guess trails, especially steeper trails, are strength work in disguise. Part of it is just being young. You can.
I know. Listen to you. Let's save this podcast for 20 years' time when you go, I did a little. I didn't need much.
But I early on in the training block, I certainly was doing strength training twice a week, but it wasn't a lot. It was probably 20 to 30 minutes twice a week, and I think that helps. When I was in Snowdonia and recceing, I wasn't doing any because. No. There was, probably 3 weeks there where I was, training for over 20 hours a week, doing sort of, I'd say 30 to 40,000 feet of vert. And at that point, when you're hiking up and down Connect or any steep mountain, you're essentially doing a weighted lunge of your body weight every single step, and you're doing thousands of steps. So I don't think you need to then go to a gym and do more lunges. I don't think that's going to particularly help.
Any injuries or niggles throughout the plan?
I'm fairly lucky, touch wood. I don't tend to get injured, but I think part of that is just focusing on the right things, eating and sleeping well. I do tend to tell my athletes that, running performance is sort of, 1/3 the running and then 1/3 sleeping, 1/3 eating. And I tend to follow that and don't seem to get injured.
I put Netflix in there as well as just that's quite an important
Netflix.
Coffee.
What was it like running with, you got this team together, and, our listeners will be well aware of like Sabrina McGee, Mark Derbyshire, Damien Hall. There's probably some others that I've missed.
Yeah.
What was that like? I'd be like I think I'd be quite stressed out. Like I had to show up. These guys were there. I've got to show up too.
Part of that. I must admit, like I was a little bit, I wouldn't say stressed is the right word, but intimidated certainly, But part of that was on purpose. We're so lucky in our community that people are kind. Like I haven't met an ultra runner I don't like, so I just sort of added people to a WhatsApp group chat. They might have been interested, and lucky, a lot of them said yes and were keen to help. And I'm always keen to help other people, so it was I was just really thankful to have that in return. But I must admit, I did sort of place people where I thought they would be best, in the sense that, take Sabrina Vergy, for example. I met her at Lavaredo last year. We both suffered from altitude sickness and essentially walked around it together. So she's seen me at my lowest low, but I'm also still really intimidated by her, and I don't particularly want to, show much
And she'd be
weakness.
disappointed as well, wouldn't she? She's not the one that would...
she's really honest.
She's really honest. She'd be like, you need to
really
be
honest,
right now.
very firm.
Yeah.
Like I knew if I wasn't giving it my best, she would call me out on it. I like strategically placed her. Oh, where was it? It was the last leg of the first round, and that sort of crucial turnaround point. And also had Damien Hall on the next leg, to have people that I respected and didn't want to show weakness around. I guess in a similar vein, Mark Derbyshire, who's probably one of the best 100-mile runners we have in the UK at the moment. I had him a lot on the first round because I knew, he was going to keep me honest. Like I didn't want to, slow him down. He wants a good run in the mountains.
Oh,
it's a great thing to see, actually, as someone who says, I'll help you out in your round. You might have had a long run planned that weekend. Not maybe 3 or 4 long runs if you're going to do multiple legs on a round.
This was the thing. I think I went into it, really being thankful that all these people were coming out. But even then, it was a surprise, like how much it meant to me during the round. And I never wanted to quit the round. And that wasn't because there were no lulls or bad points. There certainly were, really hard moments. But a lot of it was, like gratitude as a virtue sort of was really surprising to me. Like, I didn't want to let anyone down. They're not just giving up hours, they're giving up almost a whole weekend. It's not cheap to get up to Wales there and back for a lot of these people. And I felt like, if I were to have just dropped out because it was hard, I would have felt like a bit of a dick.
Yeah. So. You mentioned about some low moments, AJ. Yeah, highs and lows. Obviously, might just be 50 odd hours of highs and lows.
Yeah, I would be lying if I said there wasn't any highs and lows. There certainly was, but there wasn't as much as I thought there would be. And part of that was just the gratitude of having all these people turn up. Beforehand, I worked with a sports psychologist, and I sort of identified that in the past I've DNF'd a few times, and, a lot of that was bad luck. But I think some of that was just being a little bit mentally shit as well. And I'm not sure I can entirely separate them. So we sort of worked on that, and part of it was sort of quitting from the table almost. So I spoke to Damien and just said to him, like, I'm not allowed to quit. You're the only person that can pull the plug. And he was comfortable with that. And I gave him really strict criteria on when he was allowed to pull the plug, essentially. And that was essentially risking long-term injury. But I was willing to accept certainly some short-term or medium-term injuries to get round. That sort of simplified things, I guess. Like, even when I felt low moments coming on, I was like, well, there's no point sulking because I can't even quit. Like, if I go up to someone and say that I want to drop out, they're just going to say no. So I might as well just carry on. And I think that, with my sort of black and white personality, that worked really well. I guess the big advantage of going supported is, when you're having low moments, you can almost just sit at the back and listen to people, have a chat and have a catch up. It's not often in this community we get to meet up, especially not such a large group of people. I guess we do at races, but I guess it's a bit of a different vibe. So
it's no chat at races.
A lot of the time it felt like a social long run, but I was just sort of a common denominator.
The sad person at the back.
Sad, sulky person at the back. So there were certainly some lower moments. I think the first big low moment was actually starting the second round. And essentially what happened was I finished the first round in like 22 hours and I think a few minutes. But I sat down for about 20 minutes and ate and got changed. And I ate quite a lot of food, which was a good thing. But also I think I just sat down for too long and I think my body
thought it finished.
I think I diverted a lot of blood flow like to the stomach. And on the climb out sort of up to Molelio, I just got really tired for 20 minutes. And that was a bit of a shock. I've never had that running through one night. I expected to get sleep deprived, but I thought more so on the second night. So that was a bit of a intense wobble, and there was certainly like 5 minutes there where I was really sort of struggling to keep my eyes
was
open.
That Sabrina's leg then? Was she like
no
that's good because I think because she'd have been like, I go through 5 nights when I asked her like my sleep strategy and she's
I haven't slept in a year. I'm not sure that's true.
Sorry. I asked her like when I did Top Dret how hard I should run the descents, and she was like, as hard as you can. And I was like, okay, we got this. I got your
right answer.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think some of those lows were connected to food? I'm not too sure. What was your fueling strategy? Was that going well?
It went really well, actually. It was quite useful to have Damien there in the sense that he had supported Nikki Spinks's double during the documentary as well. It was quite clear that fueling didn't go entirely well for her, especially on the second round. I knew if I could like capitalise on the fueling and make sure that was consistent through the whole thing, that that was going to give me put me in good stead. I've always had a bit of a stomach of lead. I really wanted to maximise it, so at every support point I made sure to have hot food. Thankfully, on the long leg, so leg 3 and 8, it's a 22, 23 mile leg. But you can get supported at halfway, but it does involve someone hiking in essentially for about an hour and a half. But thankfully, an athlete I coach and a really good friend, David Hart, on both rounds he hiked in. In fact, he hiked in with chips and they were still hot.
What an angel.
Yeah, what an absolute legend.
You have coached this guy well. His whole training plan, speed hiking, really keep the chips hot.
Precious cargo. I love it.
And my crew, Will Smith, he was just incredible, making sure there was hot food at every support point. Yeah, just forcing me to almost sit down for 2 minutes to take time to eat properly and get a meal in. Because something this long, you're skipping, I guess I probably skipped
thousands,
7 to 8 meals.
Yeah.
So you do need to eat real food. Yeah, it made a massive difference. I don't think there was any point where I was underfueled.
Cups of tea? Were there cups of tea at all these fueling stops?
It was more coffee, actually. Less so tea.
Okay, you can have that.
So
hot beverages.
I did actually go off gels pretty soon.
Yeah.
Actually, sooner than I thought. Like, I usually can go on gels for like 10 to 12 hours, or just sugary stuff and be okay. Probably after about 5 hours, I went off gels, and bars weren't particularly appealing as well. So that was a little bit of a challenge. Yeah, stuff like chews, liquid calories, and also taking away some real food like pizza slices, pastries. That all went down well.
You're making my mouth water because I'm thinking, pastries. I could have
it was just the whole thing was just an excuse to eat loads of food.
How was the body? How was the body throughout? How did it hold up? Feet?
I was expecting to finish the first round and be totally trashed. But I think it's powerful about the mind, because my mind knew that wasn't the finish line, that was only the halfway point. I finished the first round and I felt okay.
Amazing.
Muscles,
all that strength and conditioning really paid off.
Yeah, it was all the squats. Pretty much the entire way round, my uphill pace and my body was fine. I think a lot of that was just to do with the strong fueling. I tend to find that, my uphill pace doesn't really change after sort of 8 to 10 hours, as long as my fueling stays consistent. My downhills, did get tender, but I was moving down them okay. The main thing was the feet. I find on the paddy, after 2 minutes they were wet, and they were never really dry until the finish. And they're either getting wet from the bog, or they're just getting wet from your sweat. After, I'd say 7 legs, I did start to get some serious blisters. And also part of that was just it getting hot on the Saturday, so the second day, and my feet swelling, and the shoes at the time being a bit too small. So I did get some major blisters, and foot care that goes a long way, but when you still have 50 miles to run on sort of technique, what the terrain's like when it's rocky or uneven underfoot, and your blisters are just getting smashed to bits.
Did you just hand them to Damien and go, this is your job, sort it out, I'm going to drink my coffee?
It wasn't Damien, it was Laura Darby-Jones, and Sabrina looked after my feet.
Of course.
I owe them.
The vet was like, I've seen this on a cow.
Leave it with me. They would probably look better on a cow. But yeah, my feet really did slow me down, especially, I'd say, the last 30 miles. I think it was just something about when you're trying to place your foot delicately, just in between rocks and trying to run on technical terrain.
And then every time it slips and you actually feel
and you've got blisters between all your toes and your...
Did you do any pre-foot care before the round? No, that was something that I spoke to Shane, who runs the rear events, who does the Cape Wrath and Dragon's Back and Northern Traverse, and he loves feet, and he's studied people's feet. It's his specialism in his medical care as a medic, and he said the biggest difference of people's feet was that they moisturized their feet for weeks before the event, not just during the event, but they also, isn't it? So I've added it to my stable of 6 weeks out. But I too have done, when I've done big events, I have not taken care of my feet, even though I've got trench foot cream in my pack. It's definitely something, you probably
came on so quickly. Like my feet, I've never had foot problems before, so that was part of not taping. Because I have taped in the past and obviously not done it correctly.
Yeah.
Tape just coming loose and causing blisters. And I was like, well, it's just pointless. It turns out I was doing it wrong. But on the round, for 6 legs, my feet were absolutely fine. And then it started to get warm on the second day.
And then it's the swelling, isn't it?
It was the swelling. And you're 2 miles into a leg, so you can't turn around and change your shoes. So you've got to just finish the leg. And when you're going, up and down really steep terrain, your feet just get bashed to hell. And by the time I finished that leg, I started with no blisters and finished with 6 or so.
What was your sort of main bits of kit of choice? What were your trainers for this?
I did the entire first round first 6 legs or so I think 6 or 7 legs actually in a pair of La Sportiva Cyclones, and they were brilliant just until my feet swelled up, and then I did have some wider pairs for the second round. I had a pair of VJs and a pair of Ron Hill shoes, which I sort of rotated for the rest of the second round. I guess it's difficult balance to strike, because on that sort of terrain, like, you want to be close to the ground and you don't particularly want to have a lot of cushioning. But my feet had swollen so much, like I needed shoes that were almost a whole size too big for me and were quite wide, and the only shoes I had were like sort of more cushioned, which just makes it harder to move well. So I think there's definitely like learning things to take away.
Any bits of kit you use that were people might be listening and go, ooh, I need that in my armory? Anything that was vital, or anything that you had that was like, that was useless?
It's not a piece of kit, but yums are really good. Pastries.
Sensational.
I don't know.
10 out of 10. Oh, it's like a donut, isn't it? But a long, skinny donut. Oh, my goodness, mate. I'm with you.
Kit-wise, I used some Fenix head torches, and I've always used those, and I've had them for probably since I started ultra running. So 3 years old. Actually, I only used one of the head torches, and I only used 2 batteries, and that was an incredible piece of kit. It's really simple to use as well when you're tired. You don't have to think about it. I did use poles, but I must admit, on some of the terrain, it's so steep that actually you just want to use your hands. Yeah,
you like tattoos, AJ. Do you think you're going to get a Paddy Buckley inspired tattoo?
Oh no, I couldn't do that to myself.
Am I right in thinking you're kind of partway through a big back tattoo? Is that correct?
Yes, I do have a back tattoo in progress. It's really painful, in all honesty. I don't not regret it.
Oh, I was going to say, are you not committed now?
I'm so far committed that I can't go back.
You're a brave.
I had an appointment last week, and it was particularly awful. And I think part of that was just like my body still. Yeah,
I'm a big believer I'm a big believer as well. When you've done something mega, your body's not ready for pain again for a long time. It can't do it.
No, I nearly tapped out.
Oh, tap out. Don't put yourself through it. I like it just the way it is. Just leave it.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind.
Get some Sharpie pens, and I'll send the kids round, and they can just finish off a little bit.
Busy for an afternoon.
Yeah. Oh, I need some childcare. Oh my God, this is it. There was a lot of lows leading up to this, with cancelled races, car crashes, things not working out. Was the double everything you thought it would be? Did it tick that box? You're like, this is worth. It did.
Yeah, like when we do races, I think we finish, and it does feel like a team effort sometimes, but I guess it's more of a personal accomplishment.
No one knows, because no one was there. You don't know, you weren't there. That's what I always say to my husband. But I guess they were there.
Like it was like one of those peak life moments when I finished, but it didn't feel like a personal accomplishment. It felt like, there were people waiting at the finish line for me, and it felt, it was just like an overwhelming sense of gratitude and being thankful for everyone, and also being really happy that it was over, because it was quite painful. But the other part of me was like, it felt like a big breakthrough. It felt like the first big win in a while. So part of me was like, like I need to, the job's not done. Like,
this is the start. This is a takeoff board for what I can. But
it was like a big thing ticked off, like a big acknowledgement. But then it was like, well, I can do that. Guess it's, the first win's the easiest, isn't it? I guess what's hard is to keep that up and continue to put the hard work in when the incentive, for some people, might not be there. Unfinished business still. There's more things to do.
Oh, of course. This is just a springboard. How many weeks are we post attempt now? Is it
4 weeks?
4 weeks?
4 weeks, yeah.
I love this. Dizzle. How's 4 weeks been? What you've been doing? How's the body?
Afterwards, I was trashed, like really trashed.
I always wonder, how do you get home? Like, you finish. You're not driving yourself home. I made a rookie error.
No. My family were up in Snowdonia. I had one night before we drove back, which was a mistake.
Yeah, because
that was a very uncomfortable drive, and I needed to wee so much.
Oh.
Yeah, my bollocks swole.
Yeah, I knew you were going to go there. As soon as you said the wing, I was like, now he's going to get into this. Okay, I think we glossed over this. James Elson always goes into heavy details of bollocks swelling with me.
Does it? Yeah.
I don't need to know about your udders.
Mine were like,
I've never had the swelling bollocks.
Well, something to do with testosterone, Gary.
Oh, thank you.
I was pissing like every 20 minutes, and Like, I mean, like for ages, you know, you just stood at the urinal and you get bored, like just reading a little poster in front of you.
Striking up a chat.
3
See the
people
tattoos,
come
guys?
by. Yeah, Jesus. The first few days were rough, and you know, you really want to sleep, but actually you don't sleep very well. And I don't think I slept well for at least 4 or 5 days afterwards. I think just the constant night sweats and then the aching as well.
I like relive moments. Maybe if I'm going to trip over or something, I'll just find myself re-wake myself
When I
up.
did get to sleep,
Tortured sleep.
I'd either wake up from the sweating, but also waking up just in like sheer panic that I had missed the summit and just be drenched in sweat. And like so drenched in sweat, but you need to then get up, which is like a bit of a mission in and of itself.
Yeah,
You have to get up, go get.
You're not selling it. You're not selling it to
take
me.
Take the old towel off, put the new towel. Yeah, so that happens like 2 or 3 times a night. So that was rough, but actually, after a few days, my muscles and joints were okay, and I think a lot of that was down to the fueling. But what really, were fucked were my feet. I mean, even now, my toes are still numb. But for I'd say a good 2 weeks, my entire feet were just numb. It was like, they're never really
so
cold.
painful.
Like they feel.
And you can't feel the end of your toes.
Yeah,
I find even the joints. Yeah, I mean, and I think Damien probably would tell you this, but then when you go and do another mega thing, it comes back like that comes back quite quickly, and you're like, I think it goes. I think it's nerve damage. I think it's nerve damage.
It almost definitely is nerve damage.
And it's gone now. I think I
fractured a lot by my big toe at some point during it. One of the many rocks I kicked must have done something bad to my big toe. I lost a big toenail 2 days ago. So my feet are still in a bad way. But otherwise, like, I'm okay. Yeah, I started running, as I said, like 4 or 5 days later. That was probably too soon, but I think I just need to move. Otherwise, I'm just an awful person to be around when I haven't been for a run. Yeah, I think my resting heart rate was high for, a good 4 weeks.
Do you track all that HRV and all that kind of stuff?
No. Like, I do wear a watch, but, I don't really track my heart rate during runs. I do have a rough idea what my resting heart rate is and sort of use it.
3. Is it 3, 5, 10? Marines aren't allowed at over 10, are they?
0.
I think Sabrina Vajay's is 0.
But I'm not really into kit and faffing. I tried to. I
Keep
guess
it
Dan
simple.
Wilson, he's a friend.
It's noise, isn't it? Sometimes it's just noise.
Yeah, and I like to, when I've sort of tracked my heart rate during runs in the past, I just find that I enjoy running less. Like it tends to be less of a guide and more of a tool. Yeah, I try to keep my running as simple as possible and sort of go off perceived effort. But I do track my resting heart rate, and it was high for about 4 weeks. And even now it might be 2 or 3 beats per minute higher than it probably should be.
Easy off the coffee, AJ. Move away from the coffee.
That could just be the 3 or 4 coffees I've had this morning.
He needed that to bring his A game this morning. What's next? Can you share any ideas in the pipeline about? Oh, hello.
I've got the Tour de Gion in September.
Of course.
Ooh, heavy flex.
Oh God.
You are gonna love it. That's too much time with Sabrina and Damien. That was
a lot of time with Damien. I did crew him last year, and that didn't seem to put me off. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not sure my toes will be. But
but the trails are different.
Well, this is the thing. Like,
you can have a nice cushioned. You need grip, but you don't need. There's rocky bits, but also there's a lot of nice.
Runnable.
Nice, smooth, runnable,
deep,
runnable,
steep. Yeah, I mean, I found during the end of the double paddy, it was the really technical terrain that slowed me down okay, and actually the more runnable downhills were fine. So I'm hoping that the tour will go well, but it might just end up being a bit more of a recce for subsequent years. And I guess sort of Damien Hall, Sabrina, Jim Mann, they've all said that. Actually with stuff like the tour, it does seem to take a few years to get your best result. So I'm going into it optimistically. Like, I want to do well, but it's also only getting more and more competitive. Yeah, I probably will have a few stabs at it. So we'll see. I'd like to do well. I'd like to beat Damien, but
I think that goes without saying.
What an adventure! You've got 20 years on him. You've got nearly 20. It could be 25 years.
Those downhills, he'll be flexing his knees at the top, and you'll be.
You'll be ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh. Should we do the quick 5?
Yes, I've got 3 minutes. We can do it.
We can do it. Okay, Groundhog Day. You've got to do one of the rounds on repeat every day forever. which one would it be?
Oh, I think it would be the Ramsey round.
Oh, I don't know the Ramsey round at all.
I've not done the entire Ramsey round, but it just looks amazing. Yeah, I do plan on doing a double Charlie round next year. So
watch this space. Okay,
watch this space.
Football is on. England have gone into penalties. It doesn't have to be England, whatever team you want. But yeah, you're stepping up to take the penalty. Do you want to go first? Oh, goodness me. Can you imagine going last? I think I've answered, well, my opinion. First or last? You're going to be first kicker or last penalty taker?
Got to be first.
Yeah.
Straight down the middle.
Would you prefer to be taking a penalty or a goalie?
Taking.
Oh, why the goalie, the goalie, what chance do they have?
The goalie can't lose. The goalie can only be a hero. That's you only expect to let
but you've got to wear
Okay.
that kit. You've got to wear the kit, and the goalie kit's
It is kind of rubbish.
I like the big gloves. Do you prefer a shower or a bath?
Shower.
Yeah.
Those
You like a
really
bath,
long
Gary?
ones where you can
I
sit-
love a
you just
bath.
stand there. Yeah.
I love.
bath.
Sometimes Bryn goes, "Are you still in the shower?" I'm like, "Oh, I've like totally zoned out," and I've been just like,
I did almost pass out in the shower after the double paddy.
"Oh, why didn't you have a bath after that?"
I wouldn't have got out. I would have.
No,
Bath
there is that.
salts.
Even the getting in.
Candles.
You need to
Sensational.
book next time when you go hotel, book disabled room, and then you have all the winches and the chairs and everything. I learnt that.
I'm not too sure which one I'd prefer, but yeah, you've got a choice actually, AJ. Would you prefer to have terrible chaffing or terrible blisters?
I've had really bad both in the last year. I'd say chafing.
Would you?
I would.
Because you can almost numb it off a bit, can't you? Bit of lube, and you can
You
once you
significant amount of lube.
It always goes for the sensitive parts, isn't it? Though the chafing, it's not.
It's the moisture, Gary.
Yeah, warm areas, warm moisture.
Yeah.
Every week we share the podcast over on Instagram. You get the music choice, AJ. Which song are we going to put to our Instagram story?
Oh my lord, you've put me on the spot there.
If you didn't listen to the
type of beats
podcast,
do
you would
people
have known
go
this
for?
question.
Well, if you'd listened, you would know that we're going to ask the question. You said you were my biggest
Turn it
fan.
off after 10 minutes.
We'll edit this bit out. Don't worry.
I would say Hotbox by Martin Brooks. That's a good like rave song. That's the top
Hotbox
of
by-
it.
This is where our
Ooh.
generation is really showing.
Yeah.
Martin who? Sorry, I've just literally never heard of this before. This is fantastic.
Martin Books.
Books. Okay. Hotbox.
You need to listen to it on full volume, otherwise it isn't.
Okay.
It isn't
Full volume,
worthwhile.
everybody. Turn it up. Turn the podcast on. Do you get that thing on your earphones like I do that says volume
Warning.
too loud? Warning,
Yeah.
warning. And I'm like, I want it louder.
You will be
This isn't-
deaf. Yeah.
This isn't loud enough for me. Sometimes my iPhone's so judgy, it turns my volume down. And I'm like, I don't want it turned down. I wanted it this loud.
Can you override it? I'd override it.
Oh, AJ, thank you so much. We only touched the
Thank you
surface
for
a
having
little
me.
bit on your journey as a green runner and as now, well, the start of your ultra journey is. Loved hearing about the Paddy Buckley Round. You've written an amazing blog if anybody wants more deets on what was an incredible 53 hours. Best of luck with Tour de Géant.
Thank you very
Profitez
much.
bien, as they
Thank you for
say.
having me.
Eat all the ice cream, eat all the pasta, enjoy those refuges, and I hope
The
the
only
sun
reason
shines
why
for
I'm
you.
going.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much, and good luck with the recovery.
Cheers.
Yeah, I'm sure it's inspired. You know, it doesn't have to be a race. It's awesome. You can just do your own adventure. I'm pretty sure some listeners out there will think, yeah, I'm going to check out fkt.com, see what I can do local to me. Really inspiring. Thanks, AJ.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, AJ, for giving up your time to come on the podcast. If AJ's inspired you to maybe have a little, make your own FKT, or you need a bit of inspiration, head over to fkt.com and have a look. You can type in like where you are and you can have a look and see local routes around you, or you can make your own and then put it up there as well. There's quite a lot like round. If you're London based, there's loads. They don't need to be mega. They don't need to be all day. They could be shorter. Have a look and
they're open to new routes, aren't they? It's not like
Yeah.
basically Strava section from your house to the local bus stop. There have to be, there's some significance.
love that idea.
Has to be some significance. And yeah, you don't have to toe a line all the time. There's loads of adventures out there. Strava. Thanks, Fenix Lights, for sponsoring our Strava Club and Tales from the Trail section. Don't forget, patrons can enjoy 10% off over at fenixlight.co.uk. First up is Fran Goldstone. Request to follow Fran, so we don't really know what you've been up to, but yeah, longest run, 75.9 miles. That must have been a race. Lots of vert too. Yeah, super impressed with that. Danny Reid next. Mixing it up, Danny. Yeah, time on the bike. Lots of miles run too. 63 miles for the week with the longest run of 21.1 miles and 2,744 feet of vert. Next up is Shirin Sabastari. Apologies, Shirin, if I have butchered that name. Yeah, Nav4 Pennine 39 for Shirin and a few other listeners too. I've seen some posts over on Facebook. Hope they all use their Patreon discount code. Awesome stuff. Well done, Shirin. 54 miles for the week, 54.9 miles, sorry, for the week, 37.6 for the longest run, and 7,008 feet of vert. This week's heavy flex has to go to Richard McDowell, previous guest, actually. Yeah, if you go back through the previous podcast, you will find a show with Richard, smoking fast, 185 miles for the week or 300k. I'm pretty sure there's not an event tied in with that. That is just Richard running all of the miles, 13,789 feet of vert. And this is where it blows me away with like my Rexy dog jogs, 13-minute mile and whatever it is. Average pace for Richard, 7:43s. Oof, that is smoking fast. Because, yeah, fair enough, he's ran 185 miles. So the ratio of 185 miles to 13,000 feet of elevation, it's probably a lot less than compared to, or 100% say compared to Fran. But still, 13,000 feet is a lot of feet going up to have an average pace of 7:43. That blows my mind. But yeah, it's no surprise Richard's smoking fast. 2:28 at this year's London Marathon. I can't imagine my little legs moving that fast. You know, when you get in the treadmill, I've said this before, when you get in the treadmill, first of all, and it just feels like you're out of control.
Even a 5-minute K, I'm like struggling when I first get on the treadmill. Like, no, this is all wrong. This is all wrong.
Goodness me. So, like, yeah, roughly speaking, he's running that marathon half an hour faster than me. Well, a bit more than half an hour faster than me. So, again, keeping the math super simple, it's a minute a mile faster.
That's incredible.
Whoa.
Rich is going to definitely not know what to do with himself with all this fanboying over him.
Well, kudos to all our Strava Club members. And if you'd like to be in with a chance of a random shout out, then go over to Strava and join our Strava Club. Tales from the Trails.
Hi, Eddie and Gary. I started to type Gary and Eddie, but didn't seem right. Too right. Eddie comes first. I just wanted to drop you a little tale from the trails. I only started listening to the podcast a few months ago. Well, I don't think we read this one out. Who is this person? Now she expects. Being a bit of a newbie to podcast listening, not a reflection on you guys. Oh, you totally redeemed yourself. I have run a fair few ultras over the last 7 or 8 years and have always been back of the pack with the occasional DNF. Didn't bother me too much and often came back to get it done the following year. Last year, I DNF'd the Lakes Traverse, having been overtaken by the full Traverse runners pretty early on. My heart wasn't in it, so just stopped. No other reason than I wasn't really enjoying it. I had this very same feeling early on in the Leighton 50, having previously finished twice. As I approached Howtown and could see the black clouds coming in, I just wanted to get the boat back across to Glen Riding. So that's what I did and decided that would be the end of my ultra running journey. I know. We've all said that at some point, haven't we? A few months passed and my wife suggested looking at a nice race aboard to help me fall in love with it all again. She fancied a trip to Innsbruck, so I got myself signed up for the Innsbruck Panoramic Trail 65k. May came around and I didn't have the best of training in the lead up to the race, but I'd managed a fair few good runs in the last few months. Race week came and we had a fad road trip to get to the race. Arrived the day before and got registration done with no issues. The race was the total opposite of UTMB. I've done a few of the shorter races with only 6 Brits entered into my race. I did manage to muddle through on my very limited German. Saturday morning came and we all gathered at 6 a.m. for the race to start. I always prefer to start at the back so I can at least overtake a few other runners later on the race. However, I found myself being ushered into the pen mid-pack. sad face emoji. Within the first mile, pretty much every single runner passed me, just 2 chaps behind me. We all stopped to strip off on the first big climb and I caught their eyes. They stripped as quickly as they could and rushed off. My interpretation of their discussion was, let's leave her for dust, then we know we're not last. I never ever listened to music or used headphones during a race. However, I'd come prepared for no conversations due to the potential language barrier. So I got my headphones on, Aftershocks, of course, and started binging on the podcast. You guys kept me company throughout the entire race. Eddie, you just DNF'd due to heat stroke, and your honest chat, including the inevitable tears, also made me cry. Luckily, nobody else around, and you kept me company, and I was loving being part of an event again. At points of the trail, some of the other race distances would share my route for a while, so I'd sometimes have other runners coming past me. I wasn't bothered. I was in my own little world. Then with about 7 miles to go, I came into the second to last checkpoint, and guess who was there? The boys. The look on their faces was priceless. Better still, their partners were with them, so they were trapped. I grabbed a couple of energy sweets from the checkpoint and cracked on. Now, becoming, as you guys have described it, the hunted. I see this happens at the back as well as the front. I started passing other runners who were suffering in the heat, gone out too fast, and also picked up a woman runner who had no clue how many miles there were left. I ran that last section with the biggest grin on my face and crossed the finish line with 30 minutes to spare and 8 people behind me. My dad had been tracking me from home and was pleased to tell me I'd come top 10 in my age group and I'd come top 5 Brit. One didn't start. Winky emoji. I loved every minute of it, but the main thing that kept me smiling was listening to you guys. And in the last 7 miles, the look in the boys' faces, knowing I was going to beat them. Keep up the good work, Claire Cooper. She's put quality manager here. Is that her job, or do you think she's just quality manager of the podcast? We could do with a quality manager, couldn't we, Claire? I've listened to this week's podcast and 85% of that is not quality. And so I shall need to do some heavy editing.
Awesome. Thanks
I
for that,
love that story, Claire. Love that we kept you company over the trails, but also I love beating the boys. Yeah, you did it. Hopefully that's inspired you. You're back on the trails. And also that feeling at the start of ultras, I think that's a really recognizable feeling. And you felt it before. And if anyone else feels it, the start of ultras are often the hardest bit when you've been a bit tired. You've run 3 miles. You've got such a long way to go and it feels insurmountable. Like, how are you going to do this? You might be feeling a bit tired, just not into it. Know too that this shall pass and you just need to keep on going and just recognize it. It's just a feeling. It's not real. Just keep on going, get to that first checkpoint, get to that second checkpoint. And then once you're in it, you're in it. You might not love every step of the way, but you will love it at the end. Thank you, Claire. Thanks for sharing your tales from the trails. Thanks again to Fenix Light for sponsoring Tales from the Trails. We love them. Keep them coming. Please email to hello@teaandtrails.com.
We have another hot 5-star review. Like all shoes, Gary and Eddie, guests and coaches have accompanied me on my long runs commutes for a while now, so it's long overdue that I leave a heartfelt review. The podcast has guided me through the scary world as a beginner ultra runner. Informative, helpful and entertaining. Gary and Eddie's chemistry and biceps continue to make me smile and chuckle when the going gets tough. Thank you for being there and the hours of amazing work you both put into producing the content. I'm truly grateful and I think I'd go as far as saying you are my ultra trail guardians, showing me and many others the way. Thank you. Love heart emoji. Jess. Oh, thanks, Jessica. What a lovely and yes, a heartfelt review. That's absolutely lovely.
I'm not sure I'd want you to be my ultra trail guardian. The whining and the general.
It's a bit of a stretch being called a guardian.
I think I'd prefer who's hot? Can I have what's his name? Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, I'd take Ryan too.
We're not fussy, Gary. Keep those 5-star reviews rolling in. It makes it so much easier for other runners to find us. And we love hearing where you've been, what you've been doing as you've been listening to us. Like, share, subscribe.
You know what else I love? A competition. Where were you going with that? I was just thinking it would be awesome to win a head torch.
It's something really rude that Bryn and I say between each other. And it starts with...
You know what, love? I don't want to know.
Wow, that was oversharing.
For the month of July, our awesome friends Fenix Light are providing the prizes. We have 2 head torches to give away, one for our awesome legend tier and above patrons. You guys, you do not need to do anything. Everyone else needs to like our competition post when we pop it in the Facebook group and join the Tea and Trails Facebook group page and like the Fenix Light UK Facebook
That's a lot
page.
of admin. That's like 3 or 4 points on my to-do list, Gary. But I want one of those head torches.
Too much friction there. Fingers crossed people do join, subscribe, like, whatever you need to do. Yeah, all the links will be in the competition post. We'll pick a winners at random end of July. What's coming up?
So I've alluded that I need a couple of weeks downtime. Don't bother following me on Strava. Nothing exciting is going to happen. I'm just going to be half hour. Some mega kudos half hour runs, 45-minute runs. Do you notice on your Strava you get more kudos for longer runs, or do you just like have a steady fan base there, Gary, that just
if I name a run, if there's a photograph, or it is something like an event, yeah, a long run, yeah, I do notice.
Do you look? Are you a looker? You like how much kudos? Oh! No.
I don't.
I haven't talked about what my next race is, so I thought I could fill this content needed gap with my next race that I'm going to do, because I've told Bryn now. I hadn't told him. So I thought I better just tell him first before. Otherwise, he hears all my news on the podcast, as do everybody who knows me. I am going to retow the start line, actually get to the start line this year of the Winter 200, which is an event held by Centurion. It was the first running of it last year, went very well. So I like that. They lined out a few creases and now I get to go and experience it for the second year. Super excited about that. Starts in Box Hill and you basically link the North Downs Way and the South Downs Way together in December. Dark, cold, wet, muddy. Eddie's favorite. Some more suffering on the cards. You guys are going to love it, though. You're going to love the journey. And oh, my, are you going to love the podcast afterwards as we go through another traumatizing event. My aim then for this race, loosely thinking, it's got a bit of work to be done, is it's really runnable. I want to run more. I want to be a little bit braver and go off a little bit faster. I want to not be sick. But I also want to work. No point in that race was I out of breath. I was like, it's way too comfortable. I was taking far too long at checkpoints. So I want to, if there's people to race, I'm racing them, but I want to go in and execute. I want to race. I want to be slick. I want to be, I want to hurt myself. 200, as I've seen, I've done 2 of these now. Like they're just a disaster, and it's who copes with the disaster the biggest. But I feel I've done my work experience now, and I'm ready. I know what the sleep deprivation feels like. I know what that being sick and rally. I know I can do that. I know how the feeling. I know I've got my kit dialed in. So that kind of that's good. I don't need to worry about that. So now I can start refocus. I want to be slicker at the checkpoints. I don't need to use them as emotional support anymore, like I did have to. I'm going to rely on the checkpoints and a bit of crew, but I'm not going to have crew all the way around. I don't want it because I need to be, but I don't need it. I don't want it. I'm also a little bit of the carbon footprint. Don't really need a car like driving all that way around with me. I think I can work it out. I need to spend some time and use the checkpoints and then just use strategic points for some pop-up love on the route as well. So with that in mind, that's in December. And a big reason why I'm not racing the summer is because, as anyone know who's got kids on holiday, it's too much stress for me to be in, and I want to have energy for the kids. And when they're at school all day, I can train, I can run 13 to 15 hours a week and do my strength work and still have energy for them, because I don't get home till the evening and they're like, Ma, all I have to do is be a taxi driver and make food and it's really low key jobs. In the summer, we want to do, and I don't want to be, creaky and old. I want to be able to do stuff and have fun with them. So my kind of thinking is December's a great time for a race because they'll go back to school at the end of August and it'll give me a nice big build up and I can keep training over the summer, but there's not that vision of fear of like, and with a little bit less mileage in July and August as well, I get some quality, Gary, and really start to work on getting back.
Yeah, it's far enough, isn't it, to not completely forget about it.
It's there that it keeps me like, because I'm going to have to get up, do some 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m., get out runs. It's enough to keep me doing that, but it's not enough that I won't get 3-hour runs in for the next few weeks. And that's okay. That's fine. So that's my next just a little race. Nothing to worry about. Mum, Dad, if you're listening, you don't need to worry about it yet. It's not.
I salute you, Eddie. Those big numbers really scare me. 200 miles. Do it over a week. Could do it like over 6 or 7 days, like
so can I.
Something like that.
It only takes me that long. I'm not scared by the distance anymore, but I am scared by a slightly different race plan of actually charging up those aftershocks and going out hard. Let's see what happens. But I'm excited. I also feel I can do it because it's a Centurion event and they're my running family. And so I know the area. I know everybody and I feel like I can just pour my heart and soul out and there'll be people there. If I get into the checkpoint, absolutely, which I will, on my knees, I'll pick me back up and then they will, most importantly, kick me back out again. What's 2 more weeks then? 2 more weeks, hard graft, Gary.
Well, 1 or 2. I think the plan has me down for a 3-week taper, but yeah, I might.
Oh, no, I think that's too long. Yeah, that's too long.
But this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, Lakes trip on the cards, a little training camp over staying in Grasmere. We've struck gold actually because the England match is on Saturday night. So yeah, it'd be nice. Little boys weekend away. I'm not 100% sure of the route yet. I fancied 13 Valleys. That 13 Valleys loop I did a few weeks ago. Maybe do that again. That's 26 miles. So if I do that on the Saturday, then I'm going to be pooped on Sunday. Possible for Sundays, we could run from Grasmere to Ambleside, which again is the last bit of the...
And remind me, Grasmere to...
Some Rydal Water around that way. And that is part of the 13 Valleys route, which won't be signposted. So I could do that bit. Then from Ambleside, because the rest of the group are doing the 50 or the 100, we could do the Super Symbol, Ambleside to Coniston.
Love that. Love that.
100, busted back to Ambleside or Grasmere. I don't know. I'm pretty loosey-goosey as far as... I would like to do something 13 Valleys, but I'm not so precious on it because, Little 100 is next. 2 workouts again, and because I'm going away, I can't put them off until the end of the week because I just will not be here. I'd be really interested also how my legs feel on a pretty long run on Sunday.
Well, they're going to feel awful. If they feel strong, then you've not worked hard enough.
Okay. I increased this is a bit too much deets, but I thought I'll try with 80 grams of carbs per hour.
Okay.
And I tried that on Sunday. Annoyingly, like a dick, I left my sachet of Precision Fuel and Hydration in the car. So when I got to Mardale, I thought I was going to top up. It wasn't there. It wasn't in my pack. So I just had stream like river water or beck water.
Oh, that's got loads of electrolytes in. I think they at Precision Fuel and Hydration Towers, they pour it into the streams on a weekend. So you don't need to worry about topping it up.
But I was worried my hand was going to start swelling up because that's one of the coaching questions that would come in about. But I was made it back. On the way back, I was a little bit slower. But just more electrolytes, more eating, trying to get that fuel in. It's going to be going for every 20 minutes. I think that is the plan.
I think you're right there. Not often we agree.
Thanks for tuning in, and thank you all so much again for sticking around to the bitter end. Thanks to Precision Fuel and Hydration and Fenix Light and Protein Rebel for sponsoring this week's show. And don't forget those new customer discount codes, T15 for Protein Rebel and T24 for Precision Fuel and Hydration. And thanks to all our partners and Patreons too. We couldn't do this without you and your ongoing support.
Be kind, just like I am, for the next few weeks to your future self. Breathe and believe, just like I am. Progress, not perfection. Keep your shield high and, like Gary, fuel like a champ and eat to the bitter end. Hope you all have a great weekend. My name is Eddie Sutton.
And my name is Gary Thwaites.
And that was episode 78 of the Tea and Trails podcast.